Okay, everybody, we're ready. Your Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, July 16th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and helping bring back the Ben Joravsky show. First up, it's the International Union of the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. A giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board and helping bring back the Ben Joravsky show. And of course, today's program is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. The Ben Joravsky show starts now. It is Tuesday, July 16th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, election lawyer Adolfo Mondragon returns. We welcome hosts of the Girl Talk, Erica Wozniak and Jen Sabella, and it's the return of Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard. Around here, we call them the Southside political know-it-alls. And now your host, Southside political know-it-all, Northside, Eastside, Westside, all of the sides. Chicago Raider columnist Ben Joravsky, what are you doing with your hands?
I'm playing the air organ. Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Tumbling Dice Tuesday, and here's why. Had a great weekend. Do you have a good weekend?
Yeah, a few days ago, I had a great weekend.
I had a great weekend. I saw a concert, went to Taste of Chicago, saw Indie RE, very good concert, worthy. That's her slogan.
She's not the average girl in your video. That went over your head.
Yeah, way over my head. Anyway, I saw a concert, and then I saw a movie, saw Wild Rose. Want to tell everybody, pretty good flick. Snow yesterday, but it's not bad. Pretty good flick. Did not want to see Wild Rose, D. I wanted to see Crawl. Do you know what Crawl
that
is?
Sounds like something you'd like. Crawl. Ugh, Crawl.
Crawl's the one where the alligators get in the house and they're going after people.
Are you serious? That's what it's about?
Yeah, man. I wanted to see Crawl. It opened last week. I was like dying to see Crawl, but here's the deal, man. Now, remember you told me that your good friend JGT and his wife Sydney, they just got married and you went to the wedding and you asked me, Ben, you've been married forever.
Yeah.
What's the secret to marriage? Well, I'll tell you. Okay, little advice. Wow. JGT, if you're listening. I wanted to see Crawl. I wanted to see really bad, but my wife and her friend wanted to see Wild Rose. So you know what I did, D? I cut a deal.
Oh, there
all
you
right.
go.
I said, all right, I'll go see Wild Rose this weekend if you promise to see Crawl next weekend. My wife said, okay. The secret to marriage, D, is much like hosting a radio show or a podcast. You got to cut a lot of deals. So anyway, I saw Wild Rose. Not bad. If you like country music, run, don't walk. You like country music, D?
I like country music.
Well, run, don't walk.
Like from like the 70s and 80s.
Well, there's a lot of 70s music in this 70s country music. Anyway, good flick. And then I woke up to discover our country is being led by a lunatic. And that lunatic, of course, is President Donald Trump. Now, I knew the country was led by a lunatic when I went to bed on Saturday night. And so just waking up and reading the insanity of Donald Trump just reaffirmed what I already knew. And of course, as you know, people have been talking about it for the last couple of days. Donald Trump has decided to wage war on 4 Democratic congresswomen of color. And his strategy is clearly to take those 4 congresswomen, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley, and sort of make them the symbols of the Democratic Party, okay? And so he pounded away at them over the weekend, saying, among other things, if they don't like this country, they should go back to the country they came from. Overlooking the fact that 3 of them were born in this country. In fact, I just want to talk about Ayanna Pressley. She's a congresswoman from Boston. Leah knows her because Leah goes to college at Boston. But before that, she grew up in Chicago. How about that, D? The country she comes from is Chicago, the country of Chicago. She grew up on the north side of Chicago. She graduated from Francis Parker High School at the corner of Clark and Belden. The Colonels, all right? That's what they're known as, the Colonels. One time I went to a basketball game, a big basketball game. Long story how I got there. Between Francis Parker and Latin, 2 prestigious private schools on the north side. It was the Colonels versus the Romans. The Colonels were victorious. I think, I don't know, it was a long time. For all I know, Ayanna Pressley was in the crowd going, hey, wait. Okay? So Donald Trump, if she goes back to the country she came from, she's going back to the corner of Clark and Belden on the north side of Chicago. So clearly Donald Trump was up to no good with what he said. And here's the deal, folks. Donald Trump is either one of two things. There are people who say that he is smart like a fox, and there are people who say he's playing a losing hand. In the smart like a fox category, I have a gentleman who is a pollster. I'm reading his quotes in today's New York Times. A pollster for the Democratic Party named Cornell Belcher. Wow, what a name, Cornell Belcher. He's a Democratic pollster and strategist. And
I love Cornell Belcher.
Yeah, I know. He's a good friend of yours. From
I love his work.
Is he from Alton?
No.
Oh, okay. Cornell Belcher says he's crazy like a fox, and it only makes perfectly good sense for him to go back to what got him here in the first place, which is driving this racial angst in the electorate. To a certain extent, the electorate already gets that Donald Trump is a racist, and he says racist, offensive things. So, of course, you have to condemn what he says as a matter of principle. Mr. Belcher continued. Mr. Belcher's got a great name, doesn't he, D? But from a strategic standpoint, does it get you anything to fall into what he clearly wants the battle to be fought? It's almost like he's picking the battlefield for 2020. So, Cornell Belcher, Democratic strategist, says Trump is crazy like a fox. And I say this. I cannot believe that the good people of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, the swing voters of those states, those key states right there, if those states swing the other way, the Democrats take back the White House in 2020. So I cannot believe that those swing voters, knowing what they know, will still vote for Donald John Trump, will still vote for an openly racist president who makes clearly bigoted appeals to win people over. Cannot believe that, D. Maybe I don't want to believe. Now, every time I say something like that, I know the guests come in the studio. What do they tell me, D? They go, Ben, you live in Chicago. Ben, you got to get out of Chicago. Ben, you just hang around with people who all think the same way you do. That's not totally true, okay? Just a couple weekends, I went to Indiana. Of course, I was hanging around with people who thought like me when I was in Indiana, but still, I was in Indiana. So I'm just betting, at the risk of sounding naive, I am just betting right now that if it comes down to a gamble between American voters going with their best instincts or their worst instincts, the good will prevail. We got a great show today, everybody. Our guest, Adolfo Mondragon, the election law lawyer from the Southwest side. Let's see what he has to say about Donald Trump. I got a feeling almost all of our guests are going to disagree with me on this one, D. I think all of our guests, because they have been disagreeing with me on this one from the get-go, are going to go, Ben, you're too naive, all right? You believe too much in the goodness of people, and then people are evil and racist and decadent and horrible. And they love Trump.
You're kind of trashing our guests.
Well, no, they don't believe. They just believe people are like that. So we'll see if they. Erica Wozniak will be here. She's the co-host of the Girl Talk. She's from Michigan. We'll get a report from Erica on what voters in Michigan are saying. And then, of course, the Southside political know-it-alls, Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard, will be rolling in at 2:30. Jerry Brown has already told me, Ben, the Democrats have got to go with Joe Biden. They got to go with somebody like Stable Joe. We'll see if Jerry Brown believes that this country is going to go with its worst instincts or its best instincts. That's what we'll be talking about today. Politics with Adolfo, Erica, Tom, and Jerry. But before we do any of that, the doctor has the news.
Hey, guys, how's it going? Not a doctor. Name's Dennis. Never been a doctor.
But you got to go to a doctor.
Yeah. It's the middle of the day, and, well, let's talk about the national news happening this afternoon. Let's just keep talking about that one story you were referring to. Seems to be a pretty big story. A couple of days ago, something happened. Our president, Donald J. Trump, with the 2020 election campaign season underway, went looking for a political fight. Hey, and what do you know? He found one on Twitter.
So big surprise there.
Happens like that all the time. On Sunday, Trump targeted our 4 new Democratic/progressive congresswomen, now known as the Squad: Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, and Rashida Tlaib of Michigan. At 5:27 a.m. Sunday, Trump said, quote, "So interesting to see progressive Democratic congresswomen who Democrat congresswomen," because he knows that really bugs Those are the Democratic persuasion. Progressive Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, the worst, most corrupt, and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all, now loudly and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how it's done. These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out free travel arrangements. That was the tweet. Meanwhile, Trump today refuses to apologize. Of course, he's doubled down, saying his tweets are not racist and that the 4 women members of Congress who have confronted him, quote, hate our country, and argues that he has hit on a political winner. Ben, your thoughts once again on all this. Is Donald Trump an evil genius playing 4D chess, or is he just a psychopath?
Well, he's both, I think. Well, I don't know if he's an evil genius. He's evil and he's a psychopath. We'll see if he's a genius. Listen, as you always point out to me, every time people underestimate Donald Trump, he proves them wrong. So he's taken the qualities that made him a hit on reality television, and he's taken the lessons he learned from the World Wrestling Federation and turned it into a political movement that has benefited him. He was able to get elected president because of our crazy electoral system and a little assistance from Putin. And so now it's he believes that this is a winning ticket, D, and he believes that a silent majority of Americans side with him on this, and that there's a majority of American, at least an electoral majority, want to vote for a president who espouses such hate and bigotry openly, and that he believes that they want to second these attitudes so much that even if the president has policies that hurt them in terms of the environment or in terms of right to choose or in terms of union, particularly unions, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this, very anti-union attitudes by Donald Trump, very anti-union policies. He's believing that their hatred and bigotry for people of a different color will prevail and that they will vote for him. Even if the polls show that he's trailing, D, he's saying that they will vote for him and lie to the pollsters. That's what he's banking on. So if he prevails, if he wins a second time around, then that says more about America than it says about Donald Trump, in my humble opinion. And like I said at the start of the show, I cannot go through life believing that a majority electoral, even though the Electoral College is set up to benefit Donald Trump, I cannot believe at this moment in time that a majority of voters agree with him. And so that's where I'm sticking with this one, D. He may be evil, but I think ultimately he will fail. Prove me right, America. Prove me right.
All right, we have some follow-up on all this here. Looks like the Republican leadership will formally recommend that members vote against a House resolution this evening condemning Trump's racist tweets. Politico quotes a spokesperson for leadership as saying that's a signal to the rank and file that leadership is watching. The vote has become a loyalty test to party. The leadership did not need to draw such distinct battle lines or have the Democrats, by bringing the resolution, cornered the Republican into making a racist Trump tweet into a party loyalty test. In any case, it's all hands on deck now. It says here, according to a report from the White House press pool, Trump has been asked where the 4 House Democratic congresswomen should go if they leave the United States. Trump says, quote, they can stay. Then attacks the members.
Wait, he said that. Oh, that's nice of you, Donald.
Yeah. Then he attacked the members of Congress for their critique of the conditions inside migrant detention centers at the border, which critique sparked Trump's racist tweets on Sunday. Trump accuses the members of Congress of not loving the USA. The members might reply that their whole point was that a great country like the United States can do better than caging children, but in Trump's rubric, criticism amounts to treason. Here's the quote from Trump. It's up to them wherever they want, or they can stay, but they should love our country. They shouldn't hate our country. I have clips right here, the most vile, horrible statements about our country, about Israel, about others. It's up to them. Do what they want. They can leave. They can stay. They should love our country, and they should work for the good of our country.
Well, Donald Trump could leave as well. If you recall that Donald Trump's inaugural address, when listening to those quotes from the president, it reminded me, D, how dark and ominous the portrait of the country he painted when he was sworn in. Even George Bush, baby Bush, who was watching the speech, couldn't believe it. He's like, well, I forget what he said. He said something like, this is unbelievable. And so Donald Trump, you know, if he's allowed to portray America as a horrific place filled with crime and bad people and lousy leaders. Why can't Democrats criticize the country? But of course, it's a losing game. Donald Trump, as he figures, as I said before, that he can only win in this fight, that he is betting that most Americans will take a look at those 4 women and turn against them. And I keep saying this, I think he's wrong. I am betting on good prevailing over bad. And I know that's a risky bet to make, especially from someone from Chicago who's been on the losing side of so many elections.
What a loser.
So I'm still betting on good. We'll see what our guests say, whether they agree with me or whether they say, no, Ben, evil will always triumph over good.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Oh, speaking of evil.
He had a news conference today, and he mentioned the tweet. He said political rhetoric has become overheated. McConnell called on leaders to lower the temperature and raise the level of discourse.
But what about Trump's tweets? See, that's the thing. Republicans are so afraid of riling up their base, so afraid of confronting Donald Trump, so afraid of a tweet from Donald Trump that they back off and they let him define their party. He owns the Republican Party, and so they're just going to have to follow him off the cliff. That's at the Sun-Times headline, Trump's bigotry sails over the cliff. The Republican Party will be following him in that fall.
More Republicans weighing in on Trump's tweet. Here is Senator and former 2012 presidential candidate Mitt Romney. I have audio. Let's see if it'll give us stereo audio and it'll sound good. Let's see. Here's Mitt Romney.
The President of the United States has a noble and unique role to unite the country and to draw on all people, regardless of their race, their color, their national origin. And in that regard, the President, I think, failed with his comments yesterday and again with the comments today. I believe it's really incumbent upon the President to bring us together. And that's a responsibility that I think he should take very seriously.
All right, here, Mitt Romney. He's the one Republican who's decided, you got to play by certain rules when you're the president of the United States. You have to at least pretend, even if in your heart you don't believe it, you have to pretend you believe in diversity. You have to pretend that you believe in a country where everybody is treated equally and that you have tolerance for people who don't look like you or don't live in the same neighborhoods as you do or don't worship at the same churches or synagogues or mosques that you do, etc. You have to have a belief in just like a universal ideology or universal worldview that ties us together as Americans. And if you don't have that belief, then you really shouldn't be the president of the United States. It's something we teach kids in school, tolerance, and don't be prejudiced, and don't be bigoted, and think about the consequences of what you say. And Donald Trump breaks all the rules. And Mitt Romney is at least still playing by the old rules. I got to give him credit. There's like 3 Republicans. There's Susan Collins in Maine is another one, and Tim Scott in South Carolina, who have been willing to sort of criticize the president. They make it clear they don't agree with the 4 Democratic congresswomen, but then they criticize Trump, his rhetoric. But whether they will join, a vote, a resolution condemning Trump, I don't know. But it's at least good to see that Mitt Romney will stand up for tolerance.
All right. Oh, and, okay. Our good friend Johnny Joe Johnson on the YouTube live chat. He says, "Why aren't you guys talking about the biggest story in the country today? That alligator." Don't worry.
We'll get to it, Johnny.
Don't worry, Johnny.
We'll get to it.
We'll get there. We're still reading Republicans' response here to Donald Trump's tweet. How about Republican Representative Kevin McCarthy?
Oh, California.
He weighed in here. He says, quote, "Let's not be false about what is happening here today. This is all about politics and beliefs about ideologies that people have."
Okay, so ideology is a tolerance, the ideology that you put up with people who disagree with you, that you don't tell them to go back to a country, even though the country they came from in the first place, the United States, is the corner of Clark and Belden. That's tolerance. I mean, that's your ideology. I think there's Kevin McCarthy. That shows you that's the mentality of some of the Republicans in Congress. They're going to follow Trump off the cliff, just like aldermen follow Rahm, follow Daley. Every now and then, we need a politician who's willing to stand up to his party.
All right, and then Kevin McCarthy was kind of grilled by reporters. The question was, were the president's "go back to your country" tweets racist? No, says McCarthy. Then he says such changes amount to a cynical political play by Democrats. This is more from their base. This is about politics. He also frames the conflict thus, quote, this is about ideology. This is about socialism versus freedom. He says he will vote no on the House resolution condemning Trump's
socialism versus freedom. Wow. All right. So freedom. So ask McCarthy, is Colin Kaepernick free to take a knee and still play in the football league? Didn't think so, huh? Yeah, so much for freedom.
Now, of course, we'll keep you posted on these stories as today's program rolls along. People, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about what's going on locally. Yes, Johnny Joe, we're going to talk about that alligator. Because coming up after this short little break, we're going to find out what else is news. Don't go anywhere. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Discover the breadth and majesty of Chicago's architecture on a Chicago Architecture Center bus tour. From bungalows to Bauhaus, our expert docents will share the fascinating stories behind our city's architecture. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a bus tour right now. Oh my, look at that wonderful piece of architecture.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by the Northwestern Summer Writers Conference. Now in its 15th year, the 3-day conference held in Chicago features a diverse array of workshops, speakers, discussions, and readings. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/writers. Our friends and co-hosts at the Chicago Sun-Times are offering you, yes, you, our listeners, an exclusive deal on unlimited digital access to all the stories that you love. Unlock every feature, video, and podcast, just like this show, The Ben Joravsky Show, by signing up now for a digital subscription. For a limited time only, you can lock in our lowest rate yet, only $29.99 for a full year of all the news that you need to know. Stay up to date on breaking stories, get the deep dives and investigations from Sun-Times reporters, cheer for the big games with the best sports team in the city, and go deep inside City Hall with best-in-class political reporting. $29.99 for a full year of unlimited access. You can't do better than that. Take advantage of this exclusive deal now at suntimes.com/Ben. Now back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes, we are live from the Chicago Sun-Times, and it's local news time. And D, breaking news. Of course, you know me, I'm on my old news cycle, newspaper to newspaper. I need Brian to tell me the breaking news, Gator Gate.
That's right. We're about to find out what's going on locally. It's time for What Else is News. Check this out. See you later, alligator.
Oh, whoa.
You like that, right?
In a while, crocodile.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
No, not in a while. He's gone. That's right. That damn alligator is out of the Humboldt Park Lagoon.
Yeah.
We got more on the story here from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Breaking news.
Frank Robb, an alligator expert, not Alligator Bob, the guy with no last name, and apparent non-expert. Frank Robb is the owner of the Crocodilian Specialist Services in St. Augustine, Florida. Frank Robb, It took him like maybe a day, maybe not even half a day. He captured the alligator at about 1:30 a.m. on Tuesday. The male alligator was 5 feet long, weighs between 40 and 50 pounds. And the way I bet it people pictured this alligator in their head was just gigantic.
Yeah.
5 feet long really isn't that big of an alligator. So I think it was somebody's pet.
Yeah.
Started off small, and then it got a little up to about 5 feet. But I know only 5 feet long, weighs between 40 and 50 pounds. He said that during a news conference. Rob said he snagged the gator while casting from shore. The gator was first spotted in the lagoon July 9th, setting off a chain of events that saw, among other things, a volunteer. Yeah, this guy, Alligator Bob.
All right. Easy on Bob.
All right. Well, it took him a while. It took him quite a bit of time here. But Ben, are you going to miss Alligator? Are you going to miss this alligator story and Alligator Bob?
Not really. I kind of forgot about it all weekend. My favorite part of the story was your imitation of Alligator Bob. That was my favorite part.
Now, come on, now we got to get this alligator. Just slippery little feller. I'm gonna get him. Just hang tight. Y'all know alligators. I know alligators.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the story. My second favorite part of the story is the relentless pursuit by the dogged journalists of the city of Chicago to find out what Alligator Bob's last name was. That was my favorite part of the story, because anybody who's labored in the journalistic vineyards, as I have for so many years, you're taught first off the bat, get the name, get the spelling, get the birthday, get the age, all those basics. And these poor reporters, this guy would not cooperate and give him his last name. So they were, every article, Alligator Bob, who would not reveal his last name.
Well,
so
he's gone unscathed because he didn't catch the thing, and we still don't know his last name.
And then on a personal level, I'm really glad they caught the alligator, because a good friend of this show, Micah, as you know, is supposed to be out there writing his book on Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. But my reports from my inside sources tell me he was hanging out at the Humboldt Park Lagoon with the hipsters from Logan Square watching the alligator gate. So Micah, get back to that computer, write that book on Bernie Sanders, and come back and report on it. And so I'm glad that the alligator was caught, so all those hipsters and millennials in Humboldt Park and Logan Square can get back to work.
Several onlookers lamented the Humboldt Park alligator's capture this morning. Here's a quote from a gentleman here. He says, "I'm sad to see him go."
Who said?
Because it was actually pretty nice to have him here.
Yeah, then they kicked everybody out of the park. Remember that, D? That's the first thing Alligator Frank Robb did. Get out of the park.
Says here, it brought a lot of publicity to Humboldt Park, and people from all over came to try and see it. Right. Let's see here. But some people weren't so happy here. A person walking a dog was quoted in this story.
Okay.
A bit of a different take. Her take on the alligator being gone. Good. Now we have the park back.
Well, I can understand. Like I said, they kicked everybody out of the park. Like I said, needed quiet. We need quiet here. And then the papers started getting in on it. Like typical, the newspapers always sternly admonishing us to do the right thing. Come on, citizens, do the right thing. Leave the park. That was what they were saying. Leave the park. So anyway, they took away the park. That alligator cleared out the park.
I'm telling you, it was like Looney Tunes between Alligator Bob and that alligator. It was like Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny or something, because he kept setting traps and then he would evade the trap for like a whole week.
Poor Alligator Bob.
Alligator Bob is like Elmer Fudd.
And then, Brian, the brains of this operation, the guy who puts this whole thing together electronically, he knows all about computers and stuff. He came in, there was trash talking Alligator Bob. Came up with a nickname for Alligator Rob or whatever it was. I was like, come on, man, not so hard on Alligator Bob.
Dude, come on. Who, Alligator dumbass? Like, whoa, hey, come on now.
He threw him into the lagoon. You don't say threw him under the bus. Threw him into the lagoon.
And apparently he did it. It was pro bono work from Alligator Bob, all right? So,
somebody paid for Alligator Rob. I'm almost positive. Somebody had to fly him up here.
Yeah, because it worked and he got it done. So, yeah, someone paid this guy. Let's see here. So, I think that's about it here. Oh, we got Johnny Joe weighing in on the YouTube live stream chat. Hey, his real name's Alligator Robert. No last name.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. Robert, Mr. Robert. Just call him Mr. Robert from now on. Anyway, so yeah, I'm glad they got the alligator. The stories. I'll tell you who's on that. Jen Sabella, who is one of the co-hosts of Girl Talk and editor of Block Club. They've been riding Alligator Bob and the alligator like it was a horse. They've been selling T-shirts. They've been regular coverage on it. She won't be able to make the show today, she said, because she's got to bundle all the T-shirts in the boxes that they've sold for it. So good for Block Club. You know what if it's good for them, it's good for the city of Chicago. So there you go. I'm glad the alligator was in the lagoon.
So there you are. Just like that, you're now in the know of what's going on locally. Yeah, slow news day. And now you'll have an answer the next time someone asks you, hey, what else is news?
Let me tell you something that Alligator Bob,
Okay.
Alligator Rob, and Tony Joe White, singer of Poke Salad Annie,
boy.
Gator Got Your Granny. They all agree you did a great job. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. We got Adolfo Mondragon coming on when we return.
But we got to get down to business.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
Hey there, producer Dennis here. Thanks for finding and listening to the brand new Ben Joravsky Show. All right, so here's how this works. The Ben Joravsky Show live streams on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Once the show is over, you can listen to the replay on our YouTube channel, or we throw it online for you to download by 4 p.m. Where can you download the Ben Joravsky Show, you may be asking yourself? Well, you may be asking yourself a fantastic question. You can find previous Ben Joravsky shows and guest interviews through several outlets. The Chicago Sun-Times Online, chicago.suntimes.com, the Chicago Reader Online, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, pick one. Just search for The Ben Joravsky Show. J-O-R-A, V as in victory, S-K-Y. So, let's recap. Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Live streamed on the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel and downloadable by 4 at chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcast. Yes, the Ben Joravsky Show is back. We're live and downloaded. Tell your friends and enjoy the rest of the show.
We knew three things. The first one is a hostile foreign government attacked our 2016 election for the purposes of helping Donald Trump get elected.
Right.
Part two, candidate Donald Trump welcomed the help.
Yeah.
Part three, when the federal government tried to investigate part one and part two, Donald Trump did everything he could to derail, stop, halt, obstruct that investigation.
Right.
That is a violation of the law.
Yeah.
If he were anyone other than President of the United States, he would be in handcuffs and indicted. And Mueller served that up and says, basically, by the time you get to the end of the report, there are all the facts, multiple examples of obstruction of justice. I can't indict.
Right.
It's up to Congress. And
I came up to the
Congress's
same
tool-
conclusion,
Yes,
Senator.
there you go.
Wow.
So I read that and I thought, you know, I didn't take an oath to support Donald Trump. I took an oath to support the Constitution of the United States. So
Commercial break over. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show.
Yes, indeed, we are back. Adolfo Mondragon, our election law expert, our Southwest Side political politics expert, our Ed Burke update expert, and also our Trump expert. The man wears many hats. And by the way, we're not even going to be talking about music. The guy knows a lot about music as well. Classical music, rock and roll music, soul music,
Everything,
folk
man.
music, Mexican music, all kinds of music. And but we're not going to talk about music. We're going to be talking about politics. All right, Adolfo, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you.
And First question right off the bat. Donald Trump, I know you've been following it. Is he crazy like a fox, or is he just a racist lunatic?
He's a racist lunatic. He's just a stupid motherfucker. That's what he is.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's just go in there.
Well, you know, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you,
Right.
and I'll give you the crazy like a fox spin on it, and I'm going to read from a quote from a New York Times article that quotes, hold on, let me find, I just read the quote too. It quotes a Democratic consultant, so this person's of the Democratic persuasion.
Right.
And he's got the bizarre name of Belcher, not making that up.
Right.
And he says, he's crazy like a fox, and it only makes perfect sense for him to go back to what got him here in the first place, which is driving this racial angst in the electorate. To a certain extent, the electorate already gets that Donald Trump is a racist, and he says racist, offensive things. So, of course, you have to condemn what he says as a matter of principle. But from a strategic standpoint, does it get you anything to fall into what he clearly wants, the battle to be fought on? It's almost like he's picking the battlefield for 2020. Your thoughts on what Mr. Belcher had to say?
Yeah, I think that makes him out to be smart when it's generally just basically a gut instinct that he goes with. I think that Trump is an idiot, and I think that he has self-confidence, immense self-confidence in himself, and therefore whenever he thinks that he has a good reaction, he goes with it. And like gambling, when you put all your chips in on a number, sometimes you hit, and then you seem like you're fucking, the wizard at the craps table or whatever. And when you don't, you crap out big time. And I think if you look at all his plays, it's like if you went to the casino, most of the time he loses and very few times he's ever won.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So when he wins at the table, everyone lauds him. Oh, look, he won, he won big. He's such a genius. He's playing this, 3D chess or whatever. You don't know how many times I've heard that from smart people.
Which part? The 3D chess part?
He's so ahead of us.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm just like, dude, the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what appeals to a lot of people. I think the fact that he has this immense bravado, he has this immense self-confidence. I have a friend I went to Yale with.
Okay.
Immensely smart guy, really successful lawyer. And when I met him in college, he's from Tennessee. He was a Southern Democrat. But he loved Huey Long. Okay. So that could go into the extremes.
Huey
of stuff.
Long, the great politician from Louisiana. Yeah.
And years later, connected with him again. This is the guy who got what's his name? Wesley Snipes out of the tax fraud stuff that the government had against him.
Okay. Wow.
So really
this
bright.
Is your friend?
Yes, this is my friend.
He got Wesley Snipes
His
off?
name is Robert Barnes, and in fact, he became a little bit famous lately because, he's been doing a lot of conservative stuff lately. But he also bet on the presidential election. He went to Europe and he bet huge on Trump, and he won tons of money.
I think you told me about this guy. So he made money. Well, good for you, Barnes. You the only one who profited from Trump.
But I knew this guy as a very liberal Democrat, and now it seems to me that he has a very strong libertarian left wing, left streak in him, but he also has this immense conservative thing going on now that he rationalizes as still being part of this Huey Long type of thing.
Okay.
And he loves Trump. And what he loves about Trump is that he's immensely confident in himself. So about a year and a half ago, this guy Barnes came into Chicago to do an argument before the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals for some former colleagues he has in Wisconsin. A very good case, actually, a civil rights case. A prisoner got beat up and died and stuff like that. And so he went and gave this awesome oral argument. I mean, the dude is brilliant.
You were there. You watched it.
I was there. I watched it. But beforehand, he told me as we were having beers, that beforehand what he was doing is he was channeling his inner Trump. And he wanted to go out there, like fearless and shit. Yeah. And I think that that's what people love about Trump. That right or wrong or whatever, it just shit slides off of him because he just keeps moving forward. He doubles down on his, idiot moves and tries to make them look like wins.
All right, well, let's just think about this in terms of as a gambling, as a man playing odds and playing a game, a poker game.
A game of chance,
okay,
yeah.
So our system of government, we don't have a real democracy.
Actually, not a poker game because that takes skill. But a game of chance, let's say
our game of
craps
chance.
or some,
all right, so follow. and a game of chance. It's crap. So follow me on this. Our system, it's not straight up democracy. We have this crazy electoral college system that works to Trump's advantage. He knows starting the game when he's rolling the dice that I forget how many number. I used to know this by heart. A certain number of electoral voters are with him automatically. Right. There's no way Alabama's going to go for anybody but Trump. Mississippi and Arkansas, et cetera, Oklahoma, et cetera, and so forth. Wyoming, Idaho. So you put that in one spot. So then it comes down to like 5 or 6 swing states.
Right.
And his gamble is that his bravado and his open appeals to prejudice and bigotry will prevail with swing voters in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and what is the other third one? Michigan. Right. That's his gamble.
Right.
And it worked in 2016.
But it worked because it was like a perfect storm of stuff that worked. I think that if you replay that 10 times, he craps out like 7 of those 10 times. I think that he won because not only did he have his game tight in terms of this bravado stuff, but what helped him is a little bit of the Russian stuff. I don't put too much weight on the Russian stuff.
I put a lot on the Russian stuff. We could talk about that all
More
day.
than that is that the Democrats insisted on a very unpopular candidate because it was her turn. It was her turn. And so even though they got lazy, they didn't go to some place because it was her turn. It was her turn.
By the way, I've been going around on my apology tour, my You Were Right tour.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
But you know, those Clintonites are still, they hate Bernie. The women Clintonites hate Bernie with a passion. I see it all over Facebook.
Well, okay.
They hate him just as much as they hated Obama when he won, but then they quickly changed the tune on Obama once he became president.
I don't believe the, okay, and this is where the Russians come in. I do not believe, I've lived through both campaigns obsessively following them. 2008 when Hillary lost to Barack Obama, 2016 when Bernie lost to Hillary. Mm-hmm. The passion of Hillary voters who, regarding Obama, faded quickly.
But they hated him.
Well,
they hated him.
But it faded, and it faded, I think, for 2 reasons. One, Obama and Hillary were sort of cut from the same cloth.
Team of rivals. He brought her in. He said, okay,
brought her in immediately. And I don't know if you remember this, she had this big speech in front of a huge crowd of people. And he stepped back and allowed her that moment.
Cut deals, dude. They cut deals. He was going to pay off her debt and all that stuff.
And very important, the Republican, the Russian hackers did not get into private emails of the Clinton campaign and the Obama campaign to reveal the mean, nasty things they said each other. And you know they said it about each other because it's private email. And in 2016, the Russians were able to inflame those rivalries between Sanders people and Clinton people, and those rivalries were greater in 2016 than the 2008. I agree, because Bernie represented a different faction, if you will.
Absolutely, and 8 years already of non-prosperity had already occurred.
Yeah, so
non-prosperity for the majority of the people.
Yes,
this country,
and which is continuing.
Yes, Obama saved the country, but after that, all this inequality just,
But you can't minimize the impact of releasing those emails.
No, I think that's what I'm saying. It was a perfect storm of things.
And
because if you role play it again and you take some of those elements out or you switch them around, I think Trump doesn't win.
All right, now listen. So many people come on the show and they tell me, Ben, I'm naive. Ben, I live in a bubble. Ben, I got to get out there more. So every single person that comes on the show will be my get out there and have seen the world viewpoint. You grew up in Chicago, but the southwest side of Chicago. Went to Curie High School. You still live on the southwest side. How popular is the Trump rhetoric in your neck of the woods?
It's not very, but there are elements of conservative people within the Latino community that buy the Trump stuff. My brother's a cop. I think he's already kind of fading out on Trump, but I can't tell you how many Latino cops love Trump. They love Trump. I see it on Facebook all the time. I don't see black cops saying that.
Now, why is that? Why that distinction between? Think about this. You just think about this. They're both cops. Mm-hmm. They're both from Chicago. They both deal with the same set of realities in Chicago. When they go out in the streets, they're facing the same challenges. as everybody else.
Because we got it better than blacks, dude. On the hierarchy, we're just a notch above them, and therefore we don't feel it as much as black people do. In terms of discriminate, we get discriminated all the time. Don't get me wrong. Our world is full of discrimination, but it is not entirely consumed like it is a black person's life. From birth through on, if you're black, your whole world is about racist institutions, racist attitudes, everything. If you're Latino, you got a little more wiggle room, you know? Mm-hmm. And if you're light skinned, you know, I mean, if you're light skinned black, you couldn't pass so much. But if you're light skinned Latino, you could, you know, if you're white, essentially, you know, you could get by very well. So I think that that's part of it.
And what about Latino cops in regard who, when they see what Trump does in terms of vilifying and demonizing immigrants who are coming? Many of them are probably Mexican American,
Yeah.
and
their parents were the same people that he's denigrating. But
So-
somehow they rationalize in their head,
Yeah.
well, no, the people that came in my parents' generation was different. They worked hard and blah, blah, blah. These people were, you know, no good. These people are, you know, Malatrucha, you know, from El Salvador, MS gang members and all this other bullshit. So they rationalize it in different ways. I think that's what they do. You know, like, oh, these are not the same kind of immigrants that were coming 30, 40 years ago. Those came to work. These dudes are, you know, fleeing gangs and, you know, all they come here is to, you know, collect a welfare check and all this other bullshit.
And, you know, it really is, because the reality, as I see it, people, again, oh, Ben, you're from Chicago. But in Chicago, as I see it, immigrants who come to this country from, take your pick of Mexico, El Salvador, whatever, are like the best citizens.
Right.
We got, you know, I mean, I can't think
about it.
I don't
Look.
think of it as a problem. It never dawned on me that anybody would think it is a problem.
It's beyond me, but it's that rationalization that you have to make, whether you're white or whether you're conservative Latino, a conservative Cuban or conservative Mexican or whatever. Oh, they didn't do it the way we, you know, did it. We worked for it, even though, you know, whatever. It's all a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, and and Donald Trump plays into that.
Oh, totally.
And
So I think you were talking to Maya last week about how, you know, what do you have to do to win this race? You know, either I think she said something about either you have to figure out what's the common denominator between all these Trump lovers, right, across the board, or you you know, you go register like tons of people and beat them out, right? It could be a combination of both things or whatever, right? But I don't think you really can, if you look at it in terms of finding some common denominator, I don't see any common denominator that's going to convince a racist all of a sudden, you know, to go against Trump. But I think what you have to do is you have to expose him for the phony or fraud that he is to the base, or you have to expose him as a weak, he no longer is this invincible guy to them. So you have to strip him. The emperor has no clothes, basically. You have to take that message to the Trumpists because they like him because of his bravado. Then show him that he's a weak, lean fool, right? That he isn't this smart, you know, motherfucker who, you know, Shaft like whatever dude, right? Then that's what you gotta do. You gotta bully the bully in front of them. And then what happens when you bully a bully in front of all his supporters? They're just like, oh, dude, you know, and they walk away. You either got to do that, or you got to demonstrate to them why this dude is a liar, because they believe him. They believe him all the time. You could show them and tell them how he lies, and they're still like, I don't care. That's a bunch of lies. I believe him.
yeah.
Show them how it hurt them in their pocket, all these policies and stuff, and then you'll see these people.
Well,
turning around.
I have to say that I wrote down when you were talking about Democrats and their view of Trump. Democrats are so psychologically scarred still from 2016. So many Democrats I know because I come in the show, I talk to them, and they're almost like in a fetal position. You know, they're like, we're gonna lose. You know, this is fatalistic attitude, and because they view this is, I think, embedded in what this fellow Belcher, what a name, was saying that whenever Donald Trump does something outrageous, it's like, wow, he's you know what I mean?
Right.
He knows exactly what he's doing. He's playing into the crowd.
But you said that you used the right word, fatalism, and fatalism means that basically you've already decided to lose. And I think you're right. I think Democrats like Pelosi are playing to lose. people who tell you that Biden's the guy are playing to lose.
And we have some people coming in this who are Biden supporters.
They're the same people who were telling you from the beginning. They're changing the story on Bernie. Bernie's in the beginning. Bernie's a nice guy, but he has no chance. Oh, now he has a chance. Bernie's a nice guy, but you know what? It's Hillary has all this experience. Blah blah.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Oh, Bernie's been doing. Bernie can't win. Bernie fucking can't win.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
No, he can't win. He can't win. He can't win. And then it's your fault, Bernie, that Trump won.
Yeah.
That was the rhetoric, and that's the same thing with Biden. It's going to happen. You better vote for Biden. Biden's the only one who could win. Biden barely won, and he lost against Trump because you people wouldn't vote for Biden. That's the bullshit that's going to happen. No. Bernie would have won. Bernie is still the only one who could probably beat him.
All right.
And I'll tell you another thing in terms of my thing about what do you got to do to beat Trump.
Yeah.
You have to be a candidate that is able to fight back in terms of avoiding being buffooned or ridiculed with a nickname. And I know that sounds stupid and not academic or whatever, but you ask Lying Ted, you ask Little Marco, and you ask Crooked Hillary if those nicknames didn't fuck them up.
Yeah, but he's got nicknames for everybody.
He does, but some stick. And when they get traction, that's it. He owns you. And right now, I'm sorry, I like Elizabeth Warren, but that Pocahontas is so denigrating. She is so fucked up with the Pocahontas. He owns her. Just like when he was talking about Hillary and getting schlonged and all this other stuff. Dude, he owns her. Once he has traction with a nickname and he starts denigrating you with it and people laugh and all that other stuff, that's it. He fucking owns you. So right now, Elizabeth Warren is out, in my view. Who's the other one that's already burned? Joe Biden with Creepy Joe. That's it. Buttigieg is his name is begging to be ridiculed, and it'll stick. The only people right now that I see from the top 5 is Bernie, who's been able to not have a nickname stick to him, and Kamala Harris. But we'll see. She likes to tussle, so she might give back. She might be able to stand up to Trump. But if he finds a nickname for her, forget about it. It's done. Mark my words. It's a stupid little thing. It's a non-academic thing, but. It speaks to people. Once he has a name and he figures it out, that's it.
All right, you know what? I'm gonna we got to keep this tape, D, because we have Sergio coming on the show this Friday, and he's our wrestling expert. The guy he has a podcast.
Sergio Mims?
No, different Sergio.
Oh, I was gonna say.
And so I always throw to him. How do you deal with Trump? Because he studies wrestling. He studies mixed martial arts. He studies
think
that
about
fight.
it. It's the art of wrestling too. You vilify some guy with a nickname and stuff. It's the art. It's that theater of the outrageous and the absurd.
I don't buy. Again, you're speaking fatalistically. I don't buy into I know exactly what you're saying. I know that he effectively stopped Elizabeth Warren's momentum with that nickname.
Oh.
But I believe Elizabeth Warren has regained some of her momentum.
Among the Democrats, but not nationwide on a toe-to-toe. She may win the Democratic nomination. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying if she goes 1-1 against Trump owns her. That nickname is so fucked up, dude.
I understand that.
And he played into it with the DNA thing. He owns her like in the playground. He owns her.
I understand she stumbled out of the gates. I understand that. But again, it's the same principle. It's the same principle that you think that Donald Trump will prevail with, let's say, women voters in suburban Cook County or suburban DuPage County or the equivalents thereof in Wisconsin and Michigan because he makes fun of Elizabeth Warren. I don't buy into that. I believe what you're doing actually is sort of
Little Marco.
You're contradicting what you just got finished saying, that you're taking the lessons from 2016 and applying them universally. And this is what this guy Belcher did too.
It's the bravado. That's part of the bravado about finding a nickname. So
you have to counterpunch.
You got to counterpunch.
You got to counterpunch. So Hillary Clinton didn't counterpunch.
No, she didn't.
She didn't counterpunch.
So Elizabeth Warren would have to. But
yes, there you go.
But for her to counterpunch from, dude, that Pocahontas name is so fucked up, man. It is so fucked
the
up,
record
man.
for most cursing in
Oh,
a segment
man.
definitely goes to you today.
All right, time out.
If it was another name, something very
what does
different.
he have for Bernie? He's got one for Bernie.
He's got like crazy Bernie or something, but dude, that's
it doesn't work because it doesn't bother you.
And
No.
Nancy
It's not
Pelosi's
that-
name.
no.
Crazy Nancy.
Yeah, he's crazy. He throws around. He hasn't found one for Nancy Pelosi
exactly.
either.
And it hasn't stuck. Like Like Buttigieg hasn't stuck either, but that name is just begging to be, for a name. It's just he has to find the right one that has to click with people.
All right. So were you impressed by anybody I haven't talked to you since the debates.
No, before
other
the
than
debates.
Bernie.
I didn't watch them. I'll tell you the truth.
What?
I didn't watch them. I watched everybody's response to it
I love
because I already know who my guy.
You're still with Bernie.
My hierarchy is Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, and from there it's a toss up on definitely not Buttigieg. I love my man Castro, but he has no chance nationwide. Dude, he's among Democrats. He's got 1% tracking, man. Come on. He's there for like the vice position or something like that. And I love the Castro brothers. I met one of them. I met Joaquin. Joaquin's a good friend of a college friend of mine. So don't get me wrong. I like them. I like what Julian, how apparently he performed really well by giving some kind of nuanced answer about trans people and Medicare.
What he did very effectively in that first debate. And I don't think Beto O'Rourke will ever.
Oh no, Beto needs to get out and run for Senate.
He shouldn't have been in the race to begin with. But what he did, he very effectively broke down the whole issue of criminalizing immigrants who come across the border, and he very effectively, in my humble opinion, showed the difference between himself and Beto on that issue. So it's like, for what it's worth, he did a good job, in my opinion, of explaining the issue in a way a voter could understand it, and also sort of undercutting his main rival. Right. But you're right; he's still left with 1% of the vote.
Yeah, I mean, he's out there just to make a name for himself, and not like Beto. Beto, you would think normally would be just out there to put main. No, he's out there supposedly to win, but he's not going to win at all.
Yeah.
So my top two are Bernie and Elizabeth, but dude, Elizabeth's cooked with that name, man. I'm sorry, she's not winnable.
All right, well, we'll come back to this one. I disagree with you on that.
And I like her.
No, I know
she's
you
my
do.
number two.
I know you do.
She's my number two.
I know, but see, again, I'll repeat what I said. You're playing into the same fatalistic card that you were deriding.
I'm not playing into it. I'm saying that because she just doesn't have a punch. It's like boxing. Styles make fights. Okay, you know that refrain in boxing, right? You have two guys, one's a boxer puncher, one's a brawler. They say styles make fights. There's reasons why the boxer puncher might outdo the brawler or whatever. Styles make fights, and Elizabeth Warren's style, and I love her. She's great. She's smart. She has all these things going for her, but she cannot match up to a Trump style.
All right. Well, let's. Your homework assignment is to watch the next debate and check out Kamala Harris because
that's the one. That's the one who she. The one thing
she can
Kamala Harris,
counterpunch.
She can counterpunch. But here's the thing, I hate her as a Dem because she's this conservative prosecutor sending little kids to jail for truancy and all this other bullshit.
Hey, but this is my urge.
I know. If she wins, I'll go to.
You voted for Hillary.
Hey, exactly. My whole family did. I didn't.
Even your brother?
No, not my brother. I don't think he did. But everyone, my point is, and I think most Democrats voted for Hillary anyway.
Absolutely.
I think overwhelming.
Well, no,
I don't think that margin did anything for her to lose.
This proves your point. There was a good column by Michelle Goldberg in today's New York Times, which I've been meaning to quote. I haven't. Hold it. I'm going to open up my New York Times. I hope I quoted. Yeah, here we go. If African American turnout in 2016 had matched 2012, Hillary Clinton would most likely be in the White House. The number of votes cast for left-wing spoiler Jill Stein exceeded Trump's margin of victory in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. 9% of people who voted for Barack Obama in 2012 voted for Trump 4 years later, but 7% of 2012 Obama voters didn't vote at all. 7% of Obama. That's the election right there.
That's the people who stayed home, not who did vote for Jill.
No, I never bought into that. I say that all the time in this show. But
to
some
this
of my
day,
best friends
Clintonites will tell you that. Oh,
come
man.
On. I know, but you can't. Listen, I've been having some arguments for years. I've been having arguments in 2020 about Ralph Nader in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Stop blaming Ralph Nader.
Exactly. No one blamed Ross Perot when Clinton won, right?
In fact, now that's my other thing.
No one blamed his ass, right?
I was just reflecting on this. I had to give a public apology to Kitty Kurth. I did that on the show. The bonus segment. Kitty Kurth, this is ancient history, was supporting Paul Tsongas in 1992, and she was a young publicist, and I was a young writer, and she was telling me, Ben, you got to write about Tsongas, and I was like, Clinton. And I now realize that Bill Clinton has been just a cancer for the Democratic Party.
Oh, totally, from the beginning.
Yeah. And people are always telling me, Ben, get over it. Don't look. They always tell me, don't look back. You got to look forward. That's something else they always tell me.
Exactly.
But it's hard to get out from underneath the Bill Clinton umbrella, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And I've been.
I never trusted that sucker from the beginning.
No.
That was my first election.
Yeah.
Presidential. Any election.
But you voted for him.
No, I voted for Daddy Bush. The first
Whoa.
time I voted for
Revelation
I voted
time.
for the status quo, and
You were 18 years old.
yeah, and I voted
You were just
for-
out of Curie High School.
I was at Yale my first
that-
semester.
that Ivy
no,
League.
Clinton, both Clintons
Yeah,
go
you're
back
right.
to Yale. But I never trusted that Southern hick.
Did you
Hell
vote for him in
no.
'96 over?
I voted for him
Okay.
because by then I was like, well, we gotta vote. Whatever.
All right, now before we take a break, I have to ask you about the ICE raids or the threat of the ICE raids, the impact it had on communities throughout the city of Chicago. What impact it had? Was it Trump blowing smoke? Or?
I think it bodes well for society because we organized, and basically, I think that the efforts to notify individuals of their rights and also to be out there on the streets and report any sightings of ICE really mitigated, their efforts because I followed a little bit in New York. There might have been like one or two people who were rounded up in New York and maybe one here in Chicago, something like that. And they really thwarted their effort. Now that doesn't mean they're not coming back next week and doing it when everyone's asleep. But I thought that it boded really well that even politicians, both here and I saw in New York, my friend Robert Rodriguez, who's a assemblyman in New York, he was out in East Harlem, and he was out there with his people, passing out information, holding workshops and stuff like that. Here, I know that Byron Sitchko in Pilsen, I think had a workshop for people at one of the Pilsen organizations, and I know on the north side too, various of the other Latino aldermen. So I think it's a nice sign that people are organizing.
All right, that's El Dragon, Adolfo Mondragon. Erica Wozniak's in the studio. We're going to bring her on when we return. Hey! Playing now at Steppenwolf Theater, the world premiere of Ms. Black for President. It's inspired by the true, that's true as in it really happened, TRUE story of Joan Jett Black, America's first drag queen presidential candidate. You know who created it, D?
No.
It was created by Tony nominee Tina Landau.
Oh.
And you know who else created it?
No.
Oscar winner Terrell Alvin McCraney. You know him, Moonlight.
Oh, yeah.
For tickets, visit steppenwolf.org. That's Steppenwolf, like the rock group from the 60s.
Hang tight, millennials.
And for the record, I love puppies.
Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Get to know your city on one of Chicago Architecture Center's 65 walking tours. Hear the unforgettable secrets and stories behind Chicago architecture from our expert docents. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a tour right now. Oh, wow, look at that building. Get a special discount for Illinois residents from July 15th to August 15th. All Illinois residents get 50% off select walking tours. Visit architecture.org/IL-resident. Today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by Green Element Resale. It's located at 6241 North Broadway, and people, it's amazing. Furniture, appliances, lamps, books, clothes, electronics. It's a thrift shop, but it's the only thrift shop in Chicago that helps bring you the Ben Joravsky Show. So if you're ever on Broadway between Granville and DeBond, tell them thank you and go check out Green Element Resale, 6241 North Broadway, and find more information at greenelementresale.com.
I've seen a whole lot of catfish, some turtles. No gators yet, though.
All right, everybody. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions once again for jumping on board and helping bring back our program. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, not Aerosmith, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union number 9, And a big thank you to the Chicago Federation of Labor as well. And of course, we have to thank one more union. That's the union of one of our good friend. Who is it? Ed Maher. What's the union he's in, Ben?
Operating engineers.
Local 150. That's
Come on,
right.
man. Give me that ball.
That was excellent. Good job, because I sure couldn't find it on my little script here. All right, the Ben Joravsky Show, hour number 2 starts now. It is Tuesday, July 16th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we still got Adolfo Mondragon in studio. We welcome host of the Girl Talk, Erica Wozniak, and it's the return of Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard, the Southside political know-it-alls. And now your host, also a political know-it-all, Chicago Reader columnist, Ben Joravsky.
Yes, indeed. Erica is in the studio. Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard are on the way. The Southside political know-it-alls. They tell me they're going to come in and give us a ringing endorsement of Joe Biden. I'm going to get a lot of ringing endorsements of Joe Biden in this show. Most people come in the show.
Dude, he went down in the polls. You know that, right?
Trashed Joe Biden. And but Jerry Brown, I think, is going to come in here determined to change our minds about Joe Biden. So I look forward to that. His efforts on that front. D, you got an update for us?
Absolutely. Let's talk about money, huh?
Ooh, money.
Hey, can I borrow some?
Sure, whatever.
All right, let's see here. Campaign disclosure reports filed this week that the State Board of Elections show Danny Solis, alderman of Ben what ward? Or former alderman of Ben what ward?
25th.
Whoa, what a dork. He didn't even need notes or anything. He knew that just from the top of his head. Yeah, Solis, former longtime chairman of the City Council Zoning Committee, paid $220,000 to the law firm of Foley and Lardner, LLP, through his 25th Ward Regular Democratic Organization Fund. Solis made the payment May 21st after transferring $85,000 from his other campaign fund, Citizens for Daniel Solis, according to the second quarter report. Neither Solis nor Lisa Knoller, the former federal prosecutor who represents the disgraced former alderman, could be reached for comment. But Ben Joravsky, we can reach you for comment. What do you think about that?
Well, he's funneling money over to a law firm. The guy had been wearing a wire for the feds. I'm going to figure out.
Yeah, but is that a usage for his political campaign? I mean, why should they be allowed to pay, from those funds money to attorneys for something that's very personal, individual? Right?
That is a great question, and I do not know all the ins and outs of election law.
You're my
election law lawyer.
Well, I haven't looked up because this doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
Well, it does happen more often than we think, right? But there should be something wrong with that. Those campaign funds, you can't even buy yourself suits or haircuts and stuff with that money because that's personal.
Okay.
While you're on the campaign, so why should you be able to pay, a top 25 law firm for your criminal defense?
Yeah. Eric, you know something about this. You just got finished running for alderman in the 46th ward. I presume you don't have nearly as much of the treasure chest that Danny Solis has.
No.
But do you know what the rules are regarding what you could do with leftover money?
Listen, I still have a little. Well, first of all, my name is Erica Wozniak. I am a Chicago public school teacher. But in my recent run for alderman, I have a little bit of money left over. Thank goodness I didn't have to go into any debt to run for office, and that's why we need campaign finance reform. I certainly couldn't go out and get a haircut using that money. I mean, that money needs to be used for campaign resources, and that's it. So,
well, in addition to being a Chicago public school teacher, in addition to being a aldermanic candidate, you are also co-host of Girl Talk and a regular on our show to promote Girl Talk. And I was all set to say, oh, what do you got in July? And then you told me you're taking the month off. So all Girl Talk listeners out there, there will be no show in July, correct?
Yes. As we've stated on our Facebook, we need to make sure that we focus all of our attention on Chance the Snapper and what's going on in Humboldt Park.
Yeah.
So we're taking the month of July off, but we will be back on August 27th with a very special guest, which hopefully you'll invite us back back to promote then.
All right, very good. Yes, you were always welcome on the show, but we're not allowed to say who that special guest is because all the I's haven't been dotted and the T's crossed. But I hear it's going to be one heck of a show. Let's just put it that way.
We are excited.
All right, so put on your political hat for a moment. We've been talking a lot today about Donald Trump's tweets and rhetoric regarding the 4 congresswomen of the Democratic persuasion. And so the debate here has been around whether Trump is just an out-and-out racist or if he's a racist smart like a fox. And I have my opinions on this. I'm just curious of what your opinions. Do you think this is an effective political tactic for Donald Trump?
No, I mean, I think that, yeah, he's a downright racist. So, what he's saying and the way he's going about it, he's attacking 4 really amazing women of color who are representing their constituents. And when you're attacking those elected officials, you're also attacking the folks who elected them. And so it's disappointing. It's atrocious that our president thinks that, this is normal behavior. And obviously the country is completely flabbergasted by, but it continues. It's like, what's the surprise here? He continues to do this, and it's almost like deflecting. He wants us to talk about this so that we don't have to talk about what's really going on. And that's what really scares me. Each time something like this comes up, what else is really going on?
Mm-hmm. Well, this is where I've been accused of being naive. And some of the people who may accuse me of being naive have entered this building and will probably be making that accusation as the show runs on. I do not believe this is a winning strategy. I do not believe that these kinds of appeals will prevail for Donald Trump. And so I understand your point that you made that when he goes off on one of these Twitter screeds, it diverts. Like we were just talking about Jeffrey Epstein. We were talking about that all last week and Donald Trump's potential role in that. We were talking about the raids, ICE raids that were going to happen over this weekend. We were talking about his immigration policy. That's all off the chart. So I understand he changes the topic, but I cannot believe this is a winning strategy. You're from Michigan. In your opinion, how is this playing with voters back home?
I think that they also think it's atrocious. I think anybody who is a human being who really cares about what's happening in our country cares more about, treating our elected officials with respect, which, of course, I'm saying that as I'm saying, that Trump is a complete racist. So I don't know. I think that in Michigan, my parents are in Michigan. Hi, Mom and Dad. They're unhappy with it. Have you seen Knock Down the House?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it when it came out. I was at the Davis Theater. The director was there. I talked about it a lot. That's the documentary. It's on Netflix now, folks. You can see it. It's about 4 different candidates, not just Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's sort of the focus of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, your thoughts?
Well, I think that documentary really illuminates what Alex AOC's path to victory was. Mm-hmm. And I think that it really shows how she got people mobilized. It shows why people wanted to vote for her. It shows how, people are ready to go up against those who are, with the machine, whether that's in the Democratic Party, whether that's in the Republican Party. And I think that Trump was also elected on part of that as well, that people are sick of the status quo and people are ready for, somebody new. But that documentary, I bring it up because it really speaks to the path to victory for women, and especially women of color. So I think that's something that, everybody who's out there listening, if you haven't seen that, within the first 30 minutes, just being a woman candidate, I was really moved by it. And I think that it's an important watch for anybody who hasn't seen it.
Well, yeah, I don't know if we talked about this the last time in your show. I just can't remember. But there's the opening scene in terms of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez where she's applying makeup and she's talking about how different it is for a woman running for office and as opposed to a man running for office because the woman has to prepare her look before she goes out and like a guy. And then they show Crowley, who she ran against, and the guy looked like he hadn't combed his hair or anything. Looks like me, actually.
Yeah. And you and I mean, we spoke about this a while ago, right after my campaign, or our campaign, I should say. But that was a huge thing for our campaign, was what I was wearing, what colors I was wearing, how I was wearing my hair, how I was wearing my makeup. Now, I think that that's something that men don't have to think about. They don't have to think about if they're going to wear their hair up or down or what color they're wearing. Maybe in a sense, but I've never been a male candidate, but I know what it's like for a woman candidate. And yeah, within those first 30 seconds, she's saying you have two looks if you're a man. Mm-hmm. You have all of these different, possibilities if you're a woman. And that, that was something that was difficult for me, just in the sense that I'm used to being myself and wearing my makeup how I like it and wearing my hair the way that I like it. And it's perfectly fine. Those are very unsubstantial things at the end of the day, but you want to feel like you're being yourself. And I think that, there's women who led with being themselves, and I think that that's, really powerful. And obviously, Alexandria was one of those folks.
Yeah, in that in that documentary, there's 4 candidates. Only one was victorious. They were all running. I think there was a senatorial candidate in West Virginia who's running in the primary there. There was a congressional candidate in St. Louis who was running in the Democratic primary, and then there was a woman running in Nevada. Yeah. I think for Senate, and they were all total underdogs. Ocasio-Cortez was the only one who prevailed.
And what all 4 of these women did, and obviously Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was victorious, but what they all did was they pushed the narrative. They pushed the narrative of what they wanted to get pushed. Yeah. And I think that anybody who's running for office, there's always a victory in that. And I take our campaign, while we didn't make it all the way, I take it as a victory in the sense that we pushed the narrative. We got people talking about the things that we thought they should be talking about. Mm-hmm. And I continue to do that. Yeah. So,
Eric, I know in 2016, my memory is correct, you were for Bernie. In 2016, am I right about you were Bernie? Yes. And Adolfo's raising us; he was for Bernie too. And so far in the campaign, up until now, the Democratic candidates have been refraining from really going hard after each other. I noticed today that Bernie's changing his strategy, and he is ripping Biden. I saw that over social media. And comparing Biden's positions on some of the issues to Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell. What's your attitude about that in terms of a successful tactic for the Democrats? Do you think they should start going after each other, or do you think they should keep the focus on Trump?
Well, in 2016, I was for Bernie, and then after the primary, then I wrote an article for. I'm a member of the American Federation of Teachers, so I wrote an article about why I was now after the primary with Clinton, and I think that. Right now, I don't think it's necessary to be going after each other. I think we let voters decide. I think one of the biggest mistakes that any campaigns make is when you treat voters as if they're not smart. I mean, voters are smart. They're going to the polls. They know what they're doing. They can do their research. And I think there is a world in which we can look at the different platforms of folks who are running for president of the United States, and we can say, I would like to vote for this person. I don't think it's necessary right now. I think we need to focus on, making sure that we're electing somebody who's not going to put kids in cages. I think attacking one another it's not necessary right now.
I don't know.
See, he's warming up.
I disagree because, yes, we need somebody who's not going to put people in cages, but Obama put kids in cages. And I think Kamala Harris would, based on her truancy record in San Francisco. So, yeah, I want these candidates to tell Kamala, hey, remember that stuff that you did in San Francisco with those kids? Why would it be different as president? I want them to go at each other, and because it's important. Mm-hmm. Even if it's, because you're just giving them ammunition or whatever. Hey, that's how you got to weed out the field.
It's a big field. I mean, I think there's some folks who obviously there's some folks who are coming off, they have their problems, and everybody's going to have their problems. I also, if I see somebody attacking somebody else, I'm turned off by that. I'm one of those voters. And there's different types of voters, obviously.
You know, hey, Obama was my professor at the U of C. I love the guy, but he was the deportation in chief, man.
Yeah.
And those are my people, the brown people, not the white immigrants with no visas or whatever that he was putting in jail. Those are my people.
Yeah, I don't have I actually am not that sensitive where we're primary foes go at it. I get turned off. I mean, if they're really dirty at the way they fight, I don't like it. And if they cast aspersions about somebody's character and just muddy them up.
So what was? How did you take Kamala's hit on Joe Biden? Was that dirty or was that legit?
Well,
I thought it was legit.
That's a great question, and I thought the way she did it was legit. I don't believe she didn't like give him a nickname like Donald Trump would do. Right. She pointed out.
But Biden people went crazy. They were like, "Oh my God, she's hitting below the belt and all this."
Well, I don't
stuff,
think she hit below the belt. I mean, I thought that what she did was point out. She contrasted her worldview regarding busing with his.
And are we better off as viewers for having seen that?
Yeah. Now the point is, yes, absolutely. I saw something about Kamala Harris and that I admired. I saw that counterpunch. Can't wait to entertain Jerry Brown on this point later on when he's on the show. Kamala Harris showed me something.
Yeah.
She could counterpunch, and I think that's a very important thing going in when you're dealing with Donald Trump. You have to be able to stand your ground and deal with what he puts out and then come right back at him.
And I think, too, that's on a stage where you can have a conversation in front of voters. I think doing it on social media or putting out a press release, but doing it on the stage in front of voters so that they can make their conclusions and you can watch that back and forth, I actually don't disagree with that.
Now, in terms of Kamala Harris, attacking Kamala Harris for her position on her criminal justice positions when she was Attorney General of California. I think that's legitimate. I absolutely believe that the past that you bring to the stage is open. It's open for Bernie. It's open for all of them. And so, yes, I think it's legitimate to go after her on that. And then she has to respond. She has to say, what? I've changed. I've seen the error of my ways. And then she has to convince
me, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Convince you, the voter, that you changed.
But let's not put it aside because, it's not polite to talk about that, or let's not give the Republicans ammunition. No. I want to see that before she becomes the nominee.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, listen, and going back to Trump in 2016, the Republicans, their debates, they fought for how many months was it? Like 3 or 4 months. This a very similar tactic. So it didn't seem to hurt them, Eric,
and it's politics, right? All's fair in love and war and all that other stuff, right? You should have a thick skin, and the buck stops here.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Erica, I haven't had you on the show since Nancy Pelosi. It's funny because it's like ancient history. In many ways, Donald Trump replaced Nancy Pelosi as the rival to Ocasio-Cortez. And did you have a opinion about that when you saw that squabble emerging between Nancy Pelosi and the squad?
I think Nance needed to step back. I mean, you should be elevating the women who you're working with, and that should be that. I think that she misstepped there, and she made a mistake, and I think a lot of folks, especially under the age of 35. Were deeply disappointed by that, and it's not like those folks were, Team Nancy Pelosi to begin with, but I definitely she messed up there.
Mm-hmm. I see some similarities between Nancy Pelosi and Lori Lightfoot, and I would love to get your thoughts on this one.
I've heard that quite a bit.
Yeah, they just swing from the hip, and there's a generational thing. They're not afraid to take on people that they disagree with, and. Lori Lightfoot's gone after the Chicago Teachers Union and some of the leaders of the Teachers Union. She's gone after the Fraternal Order of Police. She's not, you know what I mean? She doesn't hold back. I just see some parallels. Do you see that as well?
Yeah. I mean, of course, any woman in leadership, you're going to categorize them and you're going to, somehow parallel them in ways that I don't think we do as much with men, to be honest. So I think that there's, when you have a strong woman in leadership, you're going to try to find somebody to relate her to. And I think that both of those women are strong women in leadership. Whether or not we always agree with their tactics, that's another story. But I think that the comparison is there because of the fact they're both in these positions of power and people have their eyes very closely on them.
And since I mentioned the public teachers, the Chicago Teachers Union, you're, of course, a member of the Teachers Union. You're a public school teacher in the city of Chicago. They're in the middle of negotiations right now. What's your sense of where we're going with these negotiations?
Well, it's not really for me to speak to because I'm not on the bargaining team. I mean, obviously, I'm reading the same as all of you are reading. I mean, I see what we're putting out there. I see what they're putting out there. I think that what the teachers union is fighting for is we just want to make sure that our members are being properly compensated for the work that they're doing. I mean, look, Rahm Emanuel stole 4% of our salary years ago, and we don't forget that. We're looking for wraparound services. A campaign that I started after my run for office was getting more social workers in Chicago public schools because I ran on that issue. I think there should be at least a full-time social worker in every single Chicago public school. Right now, I know I talked about this last time I was on, but right now there's one social worker to every 1,053 students in Chicago public schools. The recommendation by the National Association of Social Workers is one social worker to every 250 students in areas with typical trauma, and one social worker to every 50 students in areas of high trauma. So I put out a petition. We have, it's growing every day. We have over 2,000 signatures on it. I love a petition, Ben. So, but I really want to get folks thinking about this and talking about it. We're talking about, this is a crisis. It's a crisis of safety. We want to talk about safe schools, having social workers and access to mental health services in our schools helps with the safety in our schools. It's a mental health crisis. We closed half of our city's mental health clinics. How do we help to repair that? By providing the students who need us the most with social workers in their school communities. So I want to make sure that, everybody's talking about the fact that we have one social worker to every 1,053 students in Chicago public schools. In the suburbs, there's some schools that have 2 full-time social workers in a school, some with ratios of 1 social worker to every 20 students. We have schools in the suburbs that they do a wellness check of all of their incoming high schoolers just to see if they have any mental health issues that they might need to talk to a social worker with. These kids deserve so much more than what we're giving them, and it's incredibly frustrating time and time again to see that, our kids are getting shortchanged while Lincoln Yards is getting everything in the Riverwalk and DePaul Arena. We have money, and we just need to make sure that we're using it in the right way.
Yeah, the 78, let's not forget that one as well. What was that ratio again? That was an extraordinary ratio, what, social workers or counselors to students? What was that?
So it's social workers. There is 1 social worker to every 1,053 students in Chicago public schools. So if your child does not have an IEP or an individualized education plan, the chances of them having the ability to talk to a social worker is slim to none. Our social workers are sitting in on meetings. They're sometimes at 3, 4, 7 schools a week. So I think that we should at least have one as part of each of our school communities. Just at least to meet that ratio would be incredible. But also, having said that, we don't want to privatize this like we've done with the custodians. We want to make sure that these folks are union social workers who are licensed and they're school social workers. So that's the worry as we're talking about this. We want to make sure that we're not outsourcing this like we've outsourced the nurses and the custodians. We want to make sure that these are CTU people as well.
Yeah, and in the past, so much of the contract negotiations between the Chicago Teachers Union and the mayor and the mayor's appointees have been dealing with like what they call pocketbook issues, salary, etc. This is a fighting for actually teachers and more personnel. And I think that the strategy of the city Erica, has been as the school enrollment falls, they're going to try to save money by hiring fewer people. And what you're arguing for is that no, you have to hire more people to make up for these inadequacies that have been around for like 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, and a social worker, a counselor, a nurse, a psychologist, all of these things affect a child's learning conditions. They also affect our working conditions as teachers. If I have access to a social worker that I can sit down and say, hey, this student is having this social emotional issue. How can you help me with it? Can you come and talk to them? That directly affects my working conditions. And so that's part of what we're negotiating. We can't negotiate for class sizes right now. I mean, we can make the recommendations, but we can't grieve it. If we have something in the contract that says you must meet this ratio or you must do this, then we actually have due process with it. And that's why these contract negotiations are so imperative in making sure that our kids in Chicago get the schools that they deserve.
That's Erica Wozniak, and she is a Chicago public school teacher. She's a member of the Chicago Teachers Union. She ran for alderman in the 46th Ward, and she's the co-host of Girl Talk. But there will be no Girl Talk this July, but there'll be one in August. And we'll have her back in August to talk about who the guest will be, mystery guest in Girl Talk. Right, Erica?
Yes.
All right, excited. Very good. Adolfo, thank you so much for coming on El Dragon. He is our election law expert from the southwest side of the city of Chicago.
Although I will point this out. I don't know, you're getting me in trouble, but under Illinois law, we cannot say that we're specialists of anything. We may focus on stuff, but I can't pass myself off as an election law specialist.
Is that right?
That's right. In fact, in my LinkedIn, I have a whole little thing from the Illinois Supreme Court that says we're not specialists. We could concentrate and focus on certain areas of the law, but we're not. But we're generalists anyway.
Yeah.
When you go to law school, you cover everything.
That is correct. I always just call my election law lawyer. Whenever I have a question about election
I concentrate.
law,
one of my concentrations is election law, and you know that the election law bar here is very, very small.
Yes, indeed. It's like everybody knows everybody else,
Yeah.
and one day they're arguing on this side, the next time they flip candidates.
They're
or
both on the
side.
same side, exactly.
All right.
Except for guys like me.
Anyway, we got the Southside political know-it-alls ready to come on and talk. Oh, I think I have a Joe Biden defense coming up here pretty soon. We'll bring them on when we return. Hey, everybody. What you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. Jeff. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
Hey, have you explored the new suntimes.com? Our team at the Sun-Times recently launched a brand new digital experience just for you. Yeah, the listener. Yeah, making it, and reader, making it easier than ever to get the latest news and stay up to date on everything happening in Chicago. It's the same stories you love with a brand new face. Take a moment to check it out now and let us know what you think. Visit suntimes.com today. Now back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes, indeed, we are live. Adolfo has left the room. Erica has left the room, but the Southside political know-it-alls have entered the room. Tom Shepard, Jerry Brown, they know absolutely everything about politics, and they're ready to weigh in with all the issues of the day, local, national, etc. But before we do that, You got an update for me, D?
Absolutely, I do. In the last little segment there at the beginning of the hour, we talked about Danny Solis. We're talking about cash today. More cash talk here. Former Mayor Rahm Emanuel closed out his 8-year reign in style with $1 million in charitable donations and a roughly $600,000 spending spree on farewell parties. Beneficiaries of Emanuel's generosity through donations made by former mayor's political fund included 5 of Emanuel's favorite causes, which was reported by the Chicago Sun-Times columnist Mary Mitchell. The Chicago Public Library Foundation, Children First Fund, the City Colleges of Chicago Foundation, and Youth Guidance each received $200,000 donations from Chicago from Rahm Emanuel, according to the second quarter report filed with the State Board of Elections. Ben Joravsky, your thoughts here?
Well, I'm glad he gave the money to people who are doing good work. So I'm going to give a nice little say about Rahm. Okay, everybody, instinctively, Ben, you're going to say something nasty about Rahm. So he gave the money to people. It sounds like they do good work, and it's good. I'm trying to say something else nice about Ron. Then he had the parties for himself. Well, okay, guy likes to throw a little party and hope they tip the waitresses and the waiters.
It could have been $700,000.
Yeah, so I'm really trying to say nice things about Rahm. He's not in office anymore, and his legacy remains to a certain degree. But it's an indication of how people in Chicago play the political game. We have 2 Southside political know-it-alls in the studio. They know what I'm talking about. So the powers that be in the city, they look at the mayor and they put the money down on the mayor, and they bet on Rahm, and Rahm lost, and so he had some money left over, and he could have just burned it, I suppose, so he put it to some use. I'm saying nice things about Rahm, D, all right?
Well, you're trying.
Yeah, I'm really trying to say nice things about Rahm. I saw that article in the Sun-Times saying, Rahm is gone, but he's not forgotten. So anyway, that news update. Thank you very much, D. Jerry Brown, Tom Shepard in the studio. What do you guys think about that? Mayor Rahm had some money, and he threw it around like confetti, Jerry.
I throw $600,000 parties all the time. But he's not gone. ABC, he'll be back.
Say that again.
He's on ABC now.
Oh yeah,
he's everywhere.
Yeah.
That's like you said. They put the money on him. It didn't work. So I got this. So maybe he spread it around and said that's what he did with it. I don't know.
All right, now Jerry and Tom are from the South Side of Chicago. They've been on the show many times. They have their roots in Southside politics, the 9th Ward, the 34th Ward, I want to say. And I have to ask you this. For the last week or so, we've been talking about the alligator in Humboldt Park. All right, so that's northwest side. That's how they deal with the alligator. Jerry Brown, if the alligator was in a lagoon on the south side, how would they have dealt with that alligator?
Well, let's see. I'd probably be the first one out there. I could use a new pair of shoes. I don't know. They got people who trap gators. I don't know what the big problem is.
They got the gator. You know that.
They get gator? I don't know.
While you were driving in today, they got that gator. Okay.
Maybe all that rain made it force.
Gator.
They got the gator.
Well, they brought a guy in from Florida, I think it was.
It only took him a day.
I know.
You're right. See that?
It only took him a day.
That's not our stuff, gators.
Just like the Olympics. They couldn't get the Olympics done from old Chicago way. But bring in a guy from Florida, you got rid of the gator in one day.
One day
they got rid of that gator. So all is well with getting rid of the gator. All right, gentlemen. Before we get into local politics, let's talk about what we've been talking about all day. Donald Trump, and Donald Trump went on his little tweet war against the 4 Democratic congresswomen and fired everybody up. It's been going on for 2 days now. I think we're heading into day 3 of it all. Tom, do you think this is a smart political strategy by Donald Trump?
Man, who the heck knows with Donald Trump? I can't figure out if it's smart. Obviously, it plays to his base. But I was happy to learn when he said today he doesn't have a single racist bone in his body.
Yeah.
So, he's definitely playing to that base. I've been trying to sort it out. How many people are upset by it or really disgusted by it? But he does something every day. I mean, not a day goes by that he doesn't do some kind of crazy stunt that, half of the populace thinks he's crazy and the other half just loves him for it.
Well, he said, one of the things he said so many things, is that many people agree with him, even if they don't admit it. In your neck of the woods, in the Pullman community in the South Side, do you think he's accurate? Do you think that there's a lot of people down there who at least silently agree with what he has to say?
Maybe not in the Pullman community, but overall, I've heard over in the 10th Ward, which I think the 10th Ward might have gone for Trump.
No, oh my God, no. No ward in this. It went, I think, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so it's always dangerous. I want to say the 10th Ward, about 20% for Donald John 20%. Trump.
Yeah. Okay, I've got it mixed up with a different election, but there's a lot of right-wingers out that way, and some of them, they love him, they agree with him. I don't think overall in the Southside communities in the 9th Ward we have a lot of Trump people. I mean, he got walloped in most of those wards.
Jerry, how does it play in your neck of the woods?
Well, let's just say there's no love for Donald Trump on any issue out in my neck of the woods. For him to make a statement like that, I really don't think it's a political strategy at all. Somewhere, I just got to believe that this guy knows he's not going to win. I really believe he knows he's not going to win. I really believe he knows he's not going to win, and I guess he's just, okay, throw it all to the air. Just let him know what I really feel. His
hope
campaign,
you're right on that.
Yeah, and I hope so too. Because with all the things that Donald Trump is, he's not stupid. He's not a stupid guy. Okay, he wouldn't have been able to accomplish all the evil he's done being stupid. He's evil. He's evil as I don't know what, but he's not stupid. And he's got to know what the effect, of what he said would have. He got a little bit of help from Nancy Pelosi. I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all.
What do you mean by that?
Intra-party thing.
Well, initially she was the first one that condemned the ladies. Mm-hmm. She was the first to condemn them.
Yeah.
She didn't come out and say, well, go, say the things, didn't go as deep as he did. But, for her to be the leader of the Democrats in the House and to come out and condemn these ladies for, doing what they do and saying what they say was just totally wrong in my view. And that opened the door for Trump. Yeah. That opened the door for him. And she never came back, just like him, never came back and says, okay, maybe I was wrong in saying that, or maybe try to clean up what she said. I just don't understand that. I don't know.
So she opened the door for Trump, and then he followed through.
He followed through.
Yeah, I'm with Nancy on this one.
Basically, yeah. Basically, yeah. Because she was the first to speak on it, not him. Yeah. She was the first to speak on it.
Well, now, having said all that, you were the one to put this in my mind. I've been promoting this all day. You sent me a text, I think it was, saying that in your humble opinion, that the Democrats to win have to move, get a person who's more toward the center, that somebody from the left won't do it. And I have to tell you, not a lot of people come on this show saying that. I know. So I welcome you to the show. I welcome your all kinds of opinions, So explain why you said that.
Okay, far left. Okay, number one, we have to consider that most Americans are not going to vote. So we're going to have to draw from everywhere we can. If you look at the 2016 election, the reason Hillary Clinton lost is because we didn't draw from the other side in those 5 states that took Donald Trump to the White House. That has to happen this time.
We didn't get the Russia vote.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, but even still, we didn't draw from the other side in those 5 states that she needed to keep him from going to the White House. The reason Obama won twice is because he did. Far left is not going to do it. There are people who are basically sitting on the fence. Like you said, there are some right wingers in the 10th Ward, but I bet you those white wingers voted for Obama, okay, in 08 and in 12. I bet you they did. As well as in the 13th and the 23rd ward. You look at the numbers in those wards, which are heavily right-wing. Yeah. They came out and voted for it.
I'm going to have to do a study on this one for the next time on the show because I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Okay.
So I would take a look at the 2012 turnout and let's say the 10th ward for Obama as opposed to Romney and compare it to what Hillary Clinton got in 2016 against Donald John Trump before I can make anything I just don't have those numbers in front of me. Tom, do you buy what Jerry is saying?
Well, I'm not in favor of what Jerry's saying. I've been a Bernie person. I'm pretty far to the left, and I'd like to see a leftist candidate take on Donald Trump. I think head-to-head, they might do very well. There's so much noise out there right now that I'm beginning to get confused myself, and that happened in 2016 as well. I thought Hillary had it in the bag, and this time around now there's so much confusion, and you listen to the pundits and you read the columnists and whatnot, and they're talking about so much disarray in the Democratic Party and so much infighting. And I think it has an effect. It certainly has an effect on me, but I'd like to see somebody from the left take on Donald Trump. I think that people are candidates that are speaking to the issues, like on health care, environment, education, and things like that. If people hear those words, especially in the states that Jerry talked about, those 5 states, these are issues that matter to the center and the middle class people. So I know we're not going to win in a lot of the red states, but I think in the Midwest states that you talked about, there's a good chance, and even Florida, Texas is in the mix. They're saying so. There are things changing.
Well, the issue here gets down to: do you bring people over who voted for Trump and get them to vote for the Democrat, or do you get people who didn't vote out to the polls? And the article in the New York Times just talked about this, pointed this out. Jerry said that if 7% of the 2012 Obama voters didn't vote at all, in other words, they just didn't show up. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe you're going to get that 7% by going to the center. I think that to get that 7%, you got to go to move left. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not saying that they should move to the center. I'm just saying not be far left, and I think I was specific. I said far left, radically left. First of all, the base of the Democratic, well, I wouldn't call it the base, but the majority of black voters in the Democratic Party are basically conservatives. Black people are basically conservatives, because we came to where we are by being conservatives. We had very little, so we had to conserve it. So we had, basically, we come from the Bible Belt. Okay, well, we stand on that. That's how we grew. That's how we grew our families. We've gotten away from that. But those who are still voting, have a legacy of what I'm talking about. Come from a legacy of what I'm talking about. So, it's just like a case in point. How homosexuality is viewed in the black church. Case in point, right there. It is totally rejected by the black church.
Oh, but that's changed.
No, it has not. It has not. It seems to, but no, it has not. Now, where I go to church, it's changed.
Yeah, I know where you go to church.
It's definitely a change.
But just take a look.
But that's 1 out of 100.
But just take a look at this last mayoral election. Mm-hmm. Just take a look at the last mayoral election. Lori Lightfoot won overwhelmingly in the black wards, and Willie Wilson endorsed her.
Mm-hmm.
And
where's he now?
Willie, not the issue. The issue is that she still got 70 to 75% of the vote. In fact, I think I've had this argument with you on this.
Yes, you did.
Because I've always believed that has been a completely distorted notion,
but it's not.
That black people will not vote for a candidate on this issue. I, in fact, have never seen any evidence. I remember when Derek Smith was running for state rep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody in this room remembers Derek Smith. He was a Northside state rep.
Okay.
He came out of Jesse White's organization, and he got in trouble.
Okay.
And he got in trouble. He got caught with his cookie and his hand in the cookie jar, as they say.
Okay.
I don't know what happened to him. I lost track of him.
Okay.
The point is, after he got in trouble, somehow or other, he had already won the primary, I want to say, and so he was running in the general election. He got reelected, and the Democrats went after him. And as his last, desperate hope, Jerry, he ran against gay marriage. I remember this. He was setting off, I stood up and I'm free. He got swamped in that election.
Okay.
And in other words, it was his last. I'll tell you right now, I will bet you lunch or dinner at your favorite restaurant that if you had 5 issues, 10 issues that black voters had that were going to decide on who they're going to vote for, that would not be in the top 10.
I'll take you up on that bet. But and going back to what you said about Lori Lightfoot, let's be clear about something.
Yeah.
Okay. Lori Lightfoot won all 50 wards and 70% of the vote, not as a result of her being Lori Lightfoot and Lori Lightfoot's positions and platforms and what she ran on, but she got all of that because of a rejection of Tony Preckwinkle. That's how she won.
Well,
that was a rejection.
Yeah.
That was a rejection of Tony Preckwinkle.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are beginning to regret that.
Is that right?
Yes.
In your neck of the woods?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
We hear her making headlines about resisting ICE and protecting illegal immigrants. But these numbers with the shootings and the killings are constantly escalating, and she is totally silent. And people are angry about that. They are angry about that. I had a conversation this morning with a former police officer. He's even angry about it. I don't know if you know Joe Mosley, but yeah, he and I talked this morning.
Joe Mosley, yeah, I know Joe Mosley.
Okay, Joe, Carol's brother. Yeah, we talk. Yeah, good friends. Yeah, we talk all the time. And
for 10 trivia points, who's Joe Mosley's sister?
Former Senator Carol Mosley Brown.
Very good. Give that man something or other.
Give him another lifesaver. Yeah, people are angry about this, and it's noticeable. Mm-hmm. I will say this: there's a more of a police presence, but there's absolutely nothing being done about these shootings and these killings.
Tom, what's your thoughts on this?
Man, I'm beginning to wonder about these statistics. I see all the shootings. I pick up the paper on Monday and get the statistics on what happened the weekend. And then Eddie Johnson comes out and says shootings are down.
Yeah.
How in the world? Who's right? I mean, you're on top of stuff, Ben. I wish you could answer that for me, because I just can't believe that crime is down or shootings are down. So, I mean, there's a lot to be said what Jerry's talking about.
I'm going to tell you something else. Joe also told Joe was a homicide sergeant. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you something else. He says, and he believes, and I believe him, as a matter of fact, I was the one that mentioned it to him, is that the numbers never went down when we weren't hearing anything about it. It was always going on. They just weren't telling us.
Yeah.
And the way that they report crime shows it justifies how they say that crime is going down. Case in point, a couple of years ago, there was a mass shooting out in South Shore area, and about 5 or 6 people got killed. Because it all happened in the same location, that was one killing. That's how they rate it now. This ComStat that McCarthy brought in, this is how they do it. That's one killing. So we're looking at these ridiculous numbers. They're probably even more ridiculous than what they're telling us. And my whole point for talking about this is that our mayor is totally silent about this.
I could tell you this, and I've lived in Chicago since 1981. Okay. And Chicago has always been a violent city.
It has.
And has always been. Mayors come, mayors go. Yes. And this has always, and before I moved to Chicago, the 70s were very violent in the city of Chicago. I think 1973 may have been, I'm doing this off the top of my head, we may have had the single highest homicide number in the
95. We had close to 1,000 homicides.
More than in 73?
Yeah.
I feel another bet coming on with Jerry Brown. This one we could look into, but the point is, it's always been a very violent city.
Yeah.
And I've never felt, gentlemen, that the people who run this city had a sense of what to do about that.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Except for, I will go back and give former Superintendent Leroy Martin credit. He made sure that his officers contained the crime in the areas among those who were the criminals. Mm-hmm. He didn't allow it to get out into the other areas like it's everywhere now. It seeped to the Gold Coast. You can go down Michigan Avenue, and what's happening on Michigan Avenue, on North Michigan Avenue, is happening on South Michigan Avenue. He made sure of that, and that can be done. That can be done, but because there's no focus on that, I guess, I don't know, maybe there's we don't want to get sued anymore, but it doesn't seem like that matters. What, we got $600-700 million there?
Yeah. That is Jerry Brown. Tom Shepard's in the studio as well. The Southside political know-it-alls. We'll bring them back when we return.
Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan. Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Discover the breadth and majesty of Chicago's architecture on a Chicago Architecture Center bus tour. From bungalows to Bauhaus, our expert docents will share the fascinating stories behind our city's architecture. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a bus tour right now. Oh my, look at that wonderful piece of architecture. Get a special discount for Illinois residents from July 15th to August 15th. All Illinois residents get 50% off select walking tours. Visit architecture.org/IL-resident.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
Hey, playing now at Steppenwolf Theater, the world premiere of Ms. Black for President. It's inspired by the true, that's true as in it really happened, TRUE story of Joan Jett Black, America's first drag queen presidential candidate. You know who created it, D?
No.
It was created by Tony nominee Tina Landau.
Oh.
And you know who else created it?
No.
Oscar winner Terrell Alvin McCraney. You know him, Moonlight.
Oh, yeah.
For tickets, visit steppenwolf.org. That's Steppenwolf, like the rock group from the 60s. .org.
Hang tight, millennials. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Mr. Joravsky, take us home.
Yes, indeed. That super cool music means we're almost done with another super cool show. It's not done yet. And by the way, Jerry Brown is not only opining on politics, he's not only been working in the fields for various candidates down for the years, he plays one hell of a piano, D.
I knew
Jerry
that was
Brown
him.
on piano. Southside political know-it-alls. Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard in the studio. We're talking politics, crime, talking national politics, local politics. Tom Shepard's got a few points he wants to make, but before we bring him on, D, what do you got for me, young man?
Just follow us on online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show. Give us a like, follow, share, review, whatever you want to do. Also find us on Instagram, The Ben Joravsky Show. Ben, by the way, how are we doing on that Instagram page?
Oh man, we're booming.
Really?
Yeah, I posted a picture the other day of me giving the finger to some scooters.
Oh,
we were just exploded.
Wow.
I don't know. Tom Shepard loves those scooters.
I almost got run over on Lake Street over here. Just
by a scooter?
Walking over here. No kidding.
Our generation's not feeling those scooters, guys, all right?
Find us online. Also, the Instagram, The Ben Joravsky Show. Get a look at that picture of Ben flipping a scooter off.
Yeah.
And find us. And when we hit 2,000 likes on our Facebook page, we will have ourselves a caption contest. Got a bit of ways to go, so tell your friends at Benny J Show. And also, we're on Spotify. Tell your friends.
All right, very good, Dr. D. All right, Tom Shepard, you're going to make a point about murders in Chicago before I cut you off.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like they're solving murders. I mean, every time I hear one reported, they say no one's in custody or, somebody gets away with it. I find that incredible, especially with all the cameras that we have today. And it doesn't seem like that we're solving crimes. And secondly, I think with Kim Foxx, with this revolving door policy that she has, somebody goes in for a crime and they're back out the same day with so many guns on the streets. And that's where I think it's different than the 90s and the 70s that we're talking about. Nowadays, I think just about every gang guy on the street has a gun, or at least every other one has a gun. So they go in, they come back out, and they're committing another crime with a gun or without a gun.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the statistics. We were going to try to find out.
I couldn't find the statistics, and we came back for the break fast, but I am telling you right now, in 1973, a lot of people were killed in the city of Chicago. I just couldn't find the website, and I remember I've been thinking about this for a long time, Tom Shepard. I was saying this to Jerry at the break, that Chicagoans have this attitude where they link crime and murder to certain mayors. And I think in the 90s, Chicago was going through this phase where they really loved and revered Daley. Many Chicagoans, I should say. And so they just did not hold him accountable or responsible for the murders that were happening in Chicago. And there were a lot of murders in the city of Chicago in the 90s. Yeah. The way, let's say they did in the first part of Mayor Rahm's term, where they held him responsible. Now, there's many reasons I could give for that, but that's my sense of things, that Chicagoans get very personal about these things with their mayors, and they gave Daley a pass in many ways that they didn't give Rahm, and I don't think they're going to. If your finger's on the pulse, they're not going to give it to Lori Lightfoot.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering about that. And another person that another campaign promise broken by Trump was that he's going to come in and clean up all that stuff. So I'm wondering how that's going to equate, because people are going to look at that as another promise broken. He's going to come in and he could solve all the problems in 5 minutes and take care of all the killings in these big cities. Not that he's going to win these big cities anyway, but people are just going to look at him as just another broken promise of his.
Tom, that was Donald Trump demonizing and vilifying Chicago to whip up his base. It's really not that much different than him bad-mouthing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and telling her to go back to whatever country she came from. He couldn't care less about crime in the city of Chicago. And his saying, well, I could just clean it up like that, was his way of sort of saying Mayor Rahm or Mayor Lightfoot or whoever the mayor of the city of Chicago is doesn't know what they're doing, and they're just allowing this crime to continue. So if they're going to allow it to continue, I'm just not going to pay any attention to it. In other words, nobody will ever hold Donald Trump accountable for murders in the city of Chicago. So he could say whatever he wants about it. And he does say whatever he wants about it.
Right. I think what Jerry was alluding to earlier, though, about Lori Lightfoot, I think some of the people, there's skeptics out there now about her, beginning to get a little bit skeptical. Number one, she kept Eddie Johnson, and I don't know if that's such a good thing or such a bad thing. I don't know who'd do a better job. But it doesn't seem to be getting any better with her, so I think people are beginning to wonder whether she's going to have a better handle on things or not.
Now, speaking of crime in Chicago, not violent crime, there's the criminal, political crime in the city of Chicago, and since the last time we were on the show, I don't think the last time we were on the show, Carrie Austin had gotten in trouble yet. Am I correct about that?
After we were here.
It was the day after. What timing? They waited until Jerry Brown had left the studio.
That's right.
And of course, Carrie Austin, the alderwoman of the 34th Ward, not far from where both of you live, on the south side of Chicago. She's not been indicted. I can remember, but the agents raided her office, and it's not clear what exactly they're looking for, but they're in some ways it leads most people to conclude that an indictment will be coming for something or other, generally when there's a raid. So, Jerry, you've been, are you an ally? I can't remember, of Carrie Austin. No. You were on the other side with Carrie Austin for all these years?
You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I lived in the 34th Ward. I lived in the 34th Ward for a little while, and I used to attend her town hall meetings. And the second town hall meeting I went to was right after that Darian Albert was killed a couple of blocks from our office. And we got to talk in that meeting about people who invested in the community and didn't live there. And at the time, I didn't live there, and I had invested in some property there. She literally called me a buzzard to my face in front of over 150 people in that meeting, because I didn't live in the community. That's what made me move into the community and get active. So definitely not an ally of Carrie Austin. She'd actually, and you can tell by the statements that she makes in public that what I'm saying is pretty much true. I mean, there's people who can, verify what I'm saying. Nobody
when she called you a buzzard,
called me a buzzard because I was taking from the community. I was actually buying boarded up property, rehabbing them, and moving families into them.
Did you defend yourself when she called you?
I was flabbergasted. I didn't know I knew she was a little different.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect that. But afterwards, I did, and I continued to be an advocate for what I did, and started finding out the different things that she was doing that just wasn't good. The ward has been in constant decline since she's been alderman. It used to be one of the places to move for black families who were moving from the west sides and from over in, from west side and other parts of the city. It was one of the places to be. But since she has been alderman, because there was Wilson Frost and then her husband, who died in office, and then she took over. But since she's taken over, it's been constant decline. City services are totally non-existent. But getting back to what they've gotten her for, I think it's I think they've just touched on just touched on the tip of it. They recently showed in the paper, I think it was in the Tribune, where they did an audit of the budget committee just for last year. And she was over 60. Yeah, 60.
Sun Times.
Yeah, Sun Times. Okay, yeah, 60, and that was just 1 year. And she's been chairman of the budget committee for 20 years. She's paying her chief of staff, who already gets city salary for being chief of staff. She's paying him $118,000 to be on the budget committee. Both of her sons were employees of the budget committee. She's open and yeah, I'm all about nepotism, no matter what. You know, she's had one son who was a ward superintendent, drive a city vehicle without a driver's license. She defended that.
Yeah.
You know,
she claimed the other guy was driving this. I remember that article.
But that's how he got caught, because the lady that he hit would not lie for him. That's how he ended up getting caught.
The publicity in the last few months has not been very good for Carrie Austin. See any patterns there, Tom Shepard, does it remind you of other Southside politicians you've been dealing with over the years?
Yeah, I think so. The ward that I live in, I think my alderman is, there are rumors that he may be next on the list. I think he was over budget too, wasn't he? He came in over budget.
Yes, ridiculous spending, 2 SUVs.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. Are you one of those Chicagoans who feels that the aldermen have too much power and that you agree with Lori Lightfoot that they should rein aldermen in and do away with aldermen and prerogative? Are you one of those Chicagoans?
Some of them, yeah. But I mean, where they're going to put the divvy bikes, I think the alderman knows better where they're going to put where the divvy bikes. Really
By the way, do they have divvy bikes on the south side yet?
Very.
Yeah,
they're supposed to have them down there.
We got about 8 out there. I've got about 8.
We don't have any scooters though.
No scooters.
You're
Right?
lucky you got no of those scooters. All right, we're gonna do a segment of this show, D, to close out the show.
Absolutely. It's time for the segment where we let our editor Leah take control of the program. It is time for
Leah's last word.
Oh, this is something new.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's up, Leah?
Hey, Leah.
My question for both of you is, do you think that Mayor Lightfoot is going to be able to follow through and get a handle on crime in the city?
Not doing what she's doing now. I think she can. I think she can be a little bit more vocal about her disgust with what's going on. I think she can she's going after the FOP, but in going after the FOP, she should also be talking to the leadership of the police department to make sure that these guys who are commissioned and, to fight crime, to actually fight crime. She can do it. It can be done. It can be done. And I'm hopeful that she does, and maybe me and a few others that, express our disgust with her not doing anything about it, or not appearing to do anything about it. I don't know what's going on behind the lines, but I do know that the numbers are constantly going up. Maybe that'll make her say, okay, maybe there's something to be done. I don't know, Tom.
I think she got a tough road to hoe, because with all the guns on the street and with this revolving door policy now with the state's attorney's office and letting criminals back on the street like immediately, no bonds, they're not going to be holding them anymore. And I'm not advocating this tough on crime sort of thing, but criminals they're not paying for their crimes anymore. So I don't know how she's going to be able to get a handle on it as long as the criminals come back out and they keep committing the same crimes that they do over and over again. I caught the tail end, by the way, just as important as that. We were here, caught the tail end of the school situation, and she picked another fight over there, and I think she's maybe in way over her head, and I don't know how she's going to tackle that problem, the crime situation, budget situations, and all these things at one time, because I don't see much negotiation or progress there.
Do you have a follow-up? No. Well, in terms of the school, we were talking with Erica about the negotiations with the current teacher contract.
Yeah.
And as Erica was pointing out, this is a first that I can remember where teachers union is battling not just for raises for rank and file, but they're talking about expanding the workforce in areas that you wouldn't think a teachers union would rally around, more social workers, more counselors, that kind of thing. And I think that's absolutely critical. It's like I think about fighting crime during time on a holistic level. It's it's mental health issues, it's truancy issues, it's like what's going on in a kid's life, that kind of thing. There was a story in today's Sun-Times. I don't know if you saw this, but there's police training where for police officers who actually work in the schools, and these police officers were talking, not social workers, police officers talking about dealing with kids who have mental health issues or kids who come to school, they haven't eaten and they got anger or something happened at home and they're bringing it into the school, and then you as a cop are dealing with it on the front line, and the police officers, these are police, I cannot emphasize this enough, these are not social workers saying that we need a different kind of mentality, we need a different kind of training before we go into these situations. And I think that Lori Lightfoot is is facing a reality that other mayors ducked. Mayor Rahm didn't ever talk about hiring more social workers, hiring more counselors. He closed mental health clinics, And so now Lori Lightfoot's dealing with the budget issues that she inherited from Mayor Rahm, but she's also dealing with these realities on the ground that she has to come up with money. She has to figure out how to come up with money to hire more social workers. And I'm not sure where that money is going to come from, Tom Shepard. I know people in your neck of the woods aren't asking for a tax hike, are they?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And with the Trump administration giving the bank away to the tax cuts, it's not going to come from the federal government anymore, or
the states.
Down from the state. The state's going to have to come up with something, and are they going to be raising?
By the way, you guys, you just got your tax bills. What was that like? I just paid my tax bill, so it's on my mind. Did your taxes go up this time around, Tom?
Well, I'm a renter, first of all, so I don't want to.
Did your rent go up?
It hasn't, not yet. But I don't think we got socked with it. I think you Northsiders got hit with it this time.
What about you, Mr. Property Owner on the South Side?
No, we didn't see the increase we anticipated. No, we didn't.
Yeah, well, so now you're a huge fan of Fritz Kagi, the county assessor.
But listen, real quick, I found what you were looking for. You were right. 1974 was the worst year for homicides. It's in 60 years.
I shouldn't celebrate.
Don't celebrate that. 970. I found it 970, and then there was a decline, but it soared back up to 920 in 1995.
Yeah, so
it was 74. That was
I remember.
Right.
I'm telling you, man, Chicago has always been a violent. I'm not proud of that fact.
Right, but
I don't know what to do with that fact. I remember Jerry Brown. I remember Ralph Metcalf, the congressman, fighting Mayor Daley, old man Daley, on the issue of police brutality.
Yes.
These issues have not gone anywhere in this city. I remember when Mayor Washington got elected, and it was right after those two police officers were killed on the south side of Chicago, and that's when people started learning about what Burge was up to. And these issues are not new. You understand what I'm saying? It seems like we just constantly put them under a rug and
move them around, change the name, flip them over, but they're still there.
They're still there.
The same problem.
Well, was 1995? Was that the year of the heat wave too?
Yes.
So many people died from the heat.
And that was at the end of Cabrini too, and Cabrini went.
Well, Cabrini Green. That they tore down Cabrini Green about 4 or 5 years. I mean, after that, because I remember. Oh my goodness! Now we're talking down memory lane. I remember when Paul Vallis was the head of the CPS, and Cabrini Green was still around. He was coming in around the area saying he was talking about building a new school for Cabrini Green. And then shortly thereafter, they really went full speed ahead to depopulate the area. All right, Jerry Brown, thanks for taking the deep down.
I found it.
You found it. You're a better man than I am when it comes to that internet.
I admit my wrong.
I'm not proud. I'm not happy about that. By the way, usually I am proud of my memory, but I thought it was 73, but it was actually 74. All right, it was a 70 things. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate you coming on the show. Jerry Brown, Tom Shepard, thank you very much. I also want to thank Adolfo Mondragon. He was here earlier today. Erica Wozniak, Leah did a fantastic job as always, and of course the man, the myth, the legend behind the board, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois. You know what they call him down in Alton, Jerry? You know what they call him?
No, what they call him?
White Lightning.
White Lightning. Not bad.
No one's ever called me that.
Dr. D, give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Yeah.
And remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com/Joravsky and chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. And hey, downloaders, you know we live stream this show, right? Yeah, you can catch it live Tuesday through Friday, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time. Join the live stream chat. Oh, it's a party, all right? So join that. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Find us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show.